All right, welcome back to Power to Win. This is episode 2, and I'm fired up for this one because today's a little different. This is not just a guest episode. This is also a bit of a passing of the torch. I've got Erik on with me, head of operations at PowerChampions, but more importantly, this is the guy who also gave me my first shot in the industry about 15 years ago. And I gotta say, when I showed up as a wide-eyed, no nothing 22-year-old, it was a challenge, and now I'm a bit more tired-eyed, slightly know a little bit more 35-year-old. So clearly a lot of growth, questionable ROI, but growth nonetheless. Erik, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks. Give it some more time. You're gonna get gray hair, thinner hair. Comes with business.
Perfect. So just a couple more years for me, and I'll be right there. I already got a couple coming in on my mustache, so it's good. Well, before we get into it, I want to give people a little context. Erik, you've been in the industry for a long time. You've seen it from multiple agencies, from operations, service, sales, leadership, and now you're helping build what we're doing here at Power Champions. So let's rewind a little bit. How did you even get into power generation in the first place?
Well, I was born into it. My grandpa, Walter, he started a company way back when, rewinding electric motors. As it went on, I started working there as a teenager, pulling cable on ships and whatnot, helping around the yard. Joined the Army, came back, and they said, "Hey, we need some help. You want to come work for us for a bit?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" Um, so just never left. Been doing it forever.
Wow. So you literally born into the industry. That's that's amazing. And from the time that you jumped in, what did the industry look like when you first started compared to now?
When we first started, it was a little more primitive. Um, Everything was paper and pen. Um, yeah, it's it's very primitive, almost knuckle dragging. Um, but since then, we've put some guardrails, if you will, and software technology and whatnot. So a lot more training. Before there really wasn't any training. We get these guys out of the Navy, and they would be our professionals. But now there's a lot more interest in it from platform level across the board.
When you say primitive, you make me think of primal instincts, and it makes me think of these guys trying to push through on technology. Is it been when did you see was that a huge challenge trying to break through those primitive instincts of, hey, pen and paper, we're not gonna, use these systems. How big of a challenge was that?
Honestly, it was probably the biggest challenge because these guys have been doing it for years, and then trying to get them to suddenly um, have to use technology. These are guys that are afraid to turn on a computer or even touch anything. So trying to get them to realize they're not going to break something, just follow the system, things will be good. And the ones that have stayed with me, stuck with me, they realize it works. And so they can't see any other way other than the technology helping them out as a tool.
That's wonderful. So what did the industry look like when you first started compared to now? What's the biggest change that you've seen?
Hmm. Um, when I first got into it, for one, there really weren't that many backup generators. Two, um, the old guys that did have them in their buildings weren't as interested in getting somebody professional to service their equipment. They were just doing it themselves. The equipment itself was far more primitive. It didn't have nearly the electronics on it. Um, there's no electronic governors. It was all mechanical. Um, but yeah, if something broke then, it was usually easy to fix. Nowadays, it usually takes a laptop plugged into it to help diagnose what's going on.
Why do you think that we're seeing so many more generators now compared to back when you started? And when you started, did you ever imagine that we'd have this many generators and it'd be this prevalent? Or when you started rethinking, oh, like maybe this could be, a business I could be in for a while? Or I mean, what do you think's been that change, driven that change to see generators everywhere now?
Um, we're at a point now where we really can't live without electricity. So you've got regulations which are causing folks to have more generator as a part of the initial plan for the backup. um, you have more critical infrastructure that they cannot go down. Um, and then as the new builds come along, of course, the generators are included with the design. So, but primarily the fact that we need power for just about everything, and add a little grid instability, and voila.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think you hit spot on. Everything's changed over the last 20 years. From everything is now electrified, right? I mean, gas stove or electric stoves, electric ovens. Everybody's charging a phone nowadays, when a phone 20 years ago seemed, potentially as a lot. So, and one thing that hasn't changed is the capacity on our grid. We've overloaded it, but haven't really, had the need to increase capacity, or they don't really have any competition. So it makes it a bit tough. So you've had a front row to the industry evolving. What's the biggest change that you've seen over the years, rather than just primitive, but between like technicians, customers, expectations? What's the biggest change that you've seen?
Um, the biggest change I've seen is probably the cell phone, immediate assistance. The fact that before you dial in or call somebody, use a big yellow book, dial the number. Um, then somebody would answer, and then maybe within the next week, somebody would be out to help you out. Now they pick up a cell phone, they'll Google the closest service provider, they call, they don't get an answer, they're going to the next one down the list. So it's probably the advent of the internet and the cell phone.
So it sounds like, I mean, that makes it much more important for your team to be, that much more responsive, and make sure they don't miss those calls, because, it sounds like there's a lot more competition, and they can easily get to your other competitors, if you don't, jump on these opportunities. So, do you think the industry has kept up with demand, or do you think we're still playing catch up?
We're still playing catch up. We're going to be playing catch up for a long time. One of the primary reasons that we're playing catch up is there's no good trade schools. So,
Mm.
luckily we've partnered with a program, the American Skilled Trades Academy, that is going to help us to provide skilled technicians to add to the trades, and not just generator technicians. They're going to go into the HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and everything else in the future.
That's wonderful. Yeah, skilled trades are a lacking pool of talent right now in our country, and I think that it's from years and years of them being under highlighted, and under promoted and served. So that sounds wonderful. With You said it was called ASTA.
Mm-hmm. ASTUS. Yeah, you ask any generator service company across North America, one of the first things they're going to ask is, "Hey, where do you get your technicians from?" And for the most part, right now they just poach them from each other. But if we can add a net gain to the technicians to the pool, then it's better for everybody.
Yeah, so it seems like, a couple common things. It's been technology and training, the two biggest things that it seems like that you guys are facing, and it seems like you're solving for both right now. So that's amazing. So I mean, speaking of technology and training, those might be these answers to this next question, and if they are, that's fine. But what separates companies that actually win long term versus the ones that struggle?
Gosh, we give away our secret sauce. So for us, we are going to train our technicians. We saw a need, so we're developing a program to, funnel our answers into us. So, we get our technicians, we get our training, then the technicians we do have, we do a continuous training program with them to help them improve. So,
With those training with your technician, what separates a good technician from a great technician?
well, we don't want parts changers. I mean, of course, every company is going to have just its oil changers, but we want thinking technicians. We want a technician that can go out, have a problem set in front of him that he can just puzzle through, and have the support behind him to help solve the problem for not only his problems right in front of him, but for the solution for the customer.
Gotcha. So it's not someone that's just gonna, like you said, just going A, B, C, but they might say, "Hey, I can't get to C, but let's go B to D and still get the problem solved." So that's problem solvers, right? Not something that every company has. A lot of times you take your car in and they find something and it's, hey, sorry, that there's nothing we can do about it. So having the people that can still give you, somewhat of a finished solution at the same time is definitely important, especially in an always up industry. What do you see? You've been in the industry. How long have you been in the industry now for?
At least 5 years.
At least 5. Wow. So if you've been in the industry for 5, what do you see changing in the next 5?
Ah, um, more consolidation. Some of the smaller companies are going to start uh, banding together. It's either somebody's going to consolidate them or they're going to consolidate themselves. Um, Broader footprint as far as taking care of all these other generators that are being installed, and they all still need to be maintained. So as for our company, as we grab market share, we're going to continue with this growth program as far as training our technicians, bringing in new technicians, so we can, it's can only go up.
So it sounds like a lot of the smaller service providers might be coming together as, like a group of, you could almost say power champions, right?
Yeah,
All right.
what a phenomenal name.
There you go. So if someone was getting into the industry today, like I was 15 years ago, what's something that they should be paying attention to?
Well, if somebody wants to get into the industry today, well, it's a good industry to get into. It's, we got 20, 30 years runway without any decline, I would guess. Um, but learn the technology, figure out a way to get technology and AI to help with the processes so you're not stuck doing mundane stuff. So you can study up on and learn and practice the actual nuts and bolts of it all. How are you going to solve their problems for them?
So you're telling me that you can use AI for something else other than just making images of myself as a cat? That's something new to me.
You still made images of yourself as a cat?
There you go. Say, now you learned something from our podcast today.
I think of AI as, how I use it is more of a, like your little magical helper, or your ultimate search engine. So it's you can create these agents to do whatever you want it to do.
Yep. And I think that's a big difference between the people that win and lose with AI is the people that win, aren't just limited to, their thoughts on what it might be able to do, but actually utilize it in their everyday tasks, help, make things more efficient so they don't have to spend as much time, where AI can, simplify and speed things up. So that's a big key point that you made. So what's your, just wrapping up and looking back at your time in the industry, what's your proudest moment in the industry so far? If you had to look back on one moment.
Probably.
And hiring me can be fine. That can be fine. Bringing me on was fine. It's an acceptable answer.
Okay. Yep. It was not a bad decision. I can tell you that. It was a good decision to bring you on board. But I think the biggest, proudest moment for me is to be able to bring together a team to drag these cavemen into the modern age of technology, to get into their tribal knowledge, to make a company better.
That sounds like a big challenge. So I understand why it would be your proudest moment, getting the cavemen to use the technology. So
That's why we have the gray hair.
yeah, well, I got a couple in my mustache, so we'll get them there. But all right, but before we wrap this up, I just want to say it publicly, because it does matter. Erik is not just a guest on the show. He's going to be a big part of the Power to Win podcast going forward. You're going to see him on episodes, bringing on guests, and honestly, probably making this a lot better than I ever could. So I'm pumped about that. Erik, appreciate you coming on, man. This is just the beginning.
Glad to be here. Glad to help out.
Thank you so much. And if you guys get value from this episode, share it with someone in the industry. We're just getting started with Power to Win, and we've got a lot more coming. We'll see you on the next one.